My phone lit up with the notification just as I was blowing out the candles. Laughter echoed around the restaurant, my friends lifting their glasses to toast another year. But the moment his name appeared on my screen, the whole world seemed to blur. I'm Chrissy, and at 39, I'd just been handed the most brutal message of my life. Hey Chrissy, just wanted to be upfront. I found someone better. Someone younger, hotter, honestly, an upgrade. I moved our money into my personal account. Felt fair, since I was the one making most of it anyway. No hard feelings. Enjoy your birthday. The breath froze in my throat. The words glared from my screen like a neon sign spelling out betrayal. I didn't react. Not outwardly. No trembling hands, no sharp gasp, no tears threatening to fall. If anyone at the table noticed anything, it was maybe just how I suddenly sat a little straighter, how my smile turned sharper instead of softer. Congrats, I typed back. A single word. No rage, no despair. Just a quiet, simple reply. Because what Nathan didn't grasp, what his inflated ego never once considered, was that I'd been paying attention for months. Nathan had always been arrogant. It was part of his charm, at first. The smooth confidence, the way he could talk as if every idea was his own, even when it wasn't. But then, things began to shift. The sudden late nights at work, despite his company never requiring overtime. His phone always placed face down. The dismissive eye rolls whenever I mentioned future plans, as if I were naive for imagining we had one. And then, the money. It started small. Delayed Venmo payments. Newfound concern over shared expenses, when he used to cover dinners without a second thought. Then came the big red flag. Last month, he suggested we move our shared savings into an account under just his name. It's simpler that way, he'd said, with that casual wave of his hand. I'm better with finances, babe. I'll make sure we're set. I smiled. I nodded. I even let him believe he'd convinced me. That same afternoon, I walked into my bank and opened a brand new account. I didn't drain our joint savings completely, that would have been too obvious. Instead, I withdrew just enough over time that he wouldn't notice. I moved my portion into that new account, leaving behind just enough to keep up appearances. So now, on my birthday, I knew exactly what was happening. Nathan believed he had one. He thought he'd taken everything and left me with nothing. Except he was about to learn, the hard way, just how mistaken he was. An hour after his text, my phone buzzed again. This time, from a mutual friend. Chrissy, I don't even know how to say this, but Nathan just hard-launched his new girlfriend on Instagram. He literally posted, "The glow-up is real. Out with the old, in with the new. I am fuming for you." I clicked the link. And there he was, posing in a hotel suite, his arm around a woman who couldn't have been older than 22. Long legs, perfect hair, the kind of effortless beauty that makes people look twice. Melissa. The same Melissa he'd told me was just a friend. The same Melissa he'd sworn was annoying and immature. And there she was, wrapped around him like a trophy. The comments were ruthless. Okay, king. Big upgrade. Damn, my guy went from economy to first class. R.I.P. to the ex, she must be crying. Oh, how wrong they were. I wasn't crying. I was waiting. Nathan was convinced he'd outsmarted me. He assumed I'd do what every other woman in his past had done, break down, beg for closure, spiral into heartbreak. But the thing about arrogant men is they always underestimate the women they betray. He'd forgotten whose name was on our apartment lease. He'd forgotten whose credit card he'd been using for the last 6 months. He'd forgotten that I was the one who built our savings, while his contributions were only ever in words, not numbers. I looked at my phone, at the texts, the photos, the comments meant to humiliate me, and I smiled. Nathan had made the first move. But I was about to make the last one. He believed he'd already won. He thought he'd taken the money, the power, the upper hand. But what he'd really done was set himself up for a fall so spectacular, even he wouldn't see it coming. The first domino was about to tip. In 3, 2, 1. The first thing I did when I got home was change the locks. Nathan had never bothered to put his name on the lease. It had always been my apartment, my responsibility, my name on every document. "Babe, why deal with all that paperwork? You're way better at this stuff than I am," he'd said when we moved in. Now, that laziness would cost him. The landlord had no issue when I called. "You're the only one on the lease, Chrissy. You can do what you want." By midnight, Nathan no longer had a home to return to. At 1 a.m., I got the first sign that reality was starting to sink in. A single text from Nathan, "Hey, super weird, but I think my key isn't working. Can you let me in?" I let the message sit. Read, but unanswered. 15 minutes later, another one, Chrissy? What's going on? I need to grab some of my stuff." I still said nothing. Because Nathan's stuff, the suits, the watches, the expensive sneakers he never took care of, everything he'd left behind was already packed into trash bags and sitting in the hallway outside. When he tried to enter his old life, he'd find himself standing before a locked door, staring at his belongings like a stranger on the curb. But this was only the beginning. At 8 a.m. the next morning, I called our bank. "Hi, I need to report fraudulent activity on my joint account." The representative's voice was polite but firm. "What kind of activity, ma'am?" I took a steady breath, ready to speak the words that would flip Nathan's world upside down. Money was withdrawn without my permission. And I have text message proof that my ex took the funds maliciously. A pause. "Then, would you be able to forward those messages to our fraud department?" "Of course. Happy to." I sent the proof. Within minutes, by 9:30 a.m., Nathan's personal bank account, the one he'd so proudly transferred all our money into, was frozen, pending an investigation. His next text arrived right on schedule. "Chrissy, WTF did you do? My bank account is locked. I can't access anything." I took a sip of my morning coffee before replying. "Huh. Weird. Maybe you should call your bank." He called. And what a call that must have been. I can only imagine the moment the representative explained his account was frozen due to a fraud complaint. That he wouldn't have access to a single cent until it was resolved. That the money he'd stolen wasn't as safe as he'd thought. I pictured the slow, dawning realization washing over him, that his grand upgrade wasn't going as planned. That Melissa's luxury vacation dreams had just crashed. And that I was not the fool he'd believed me to be. Nathan had booked a rental car for this trip with Melissa, a flashy convertible, because of course he had. I knew this because I'd seen the confirmation email pop up on our shared iPad weeks ago. And guess which credit card he'd used? Mine. He'd stupidly left the card details saved in the system, thinking I wouldn't notice. So at 10 a.m., I made my second call of the day. "Hi, I need to report an unauthorized transaction on my credit card." By noon, the rental car was canceled. Just like that, Nathan and Melissa had no ride to their supposed better life. At exactly 12:17 p.m., my phone rang. "Nathan." I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, another call. Then another. By the fifth attempt, I finally picked up. "Chrissy, you need to fix this. My bank is frozen, my rental's canceled, my stuff is in trash bags outside the apartment. You've made your point, okay?" I smiled, twirling my coffee spoon between my fingers. "Oh, Nathan. I haven't even started." Nathan was unraveling. I could hear it in his voice, see it in his texts, feel it in his desperation. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because what's the point of revenge if the person who betrayed you doesn't fully understand the depth of their mistake? I was going to make sure Nathan felt every consequence he'd brought upon himself. And the best part? He still had no idea how deep the trap had been set. Nathan's next brilliant move had been booking a high-end hotel suite for himself and Melissa. 5-star luxury, ocean views, private balcony, a fantasy trip meant to be the cherry on top of his upgrade to a better life. Too bad he never read the fine print. Because when he transferred all our money into his personal account, and that account got frozen for fraud, the pending hotel charges bounced. At exactly 3 p.m., Nathan and Melissa arrived at the hotel, dressed for a vacation they could no longer afford. I wish I could have seen his face when the receptionist politely told him, "I'm sorry, sir, but your payment was declined. Unfortunately, we've had to release your reservation." Melissa must have been thrilled. Because half an hour later, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I already knew who it was. I answered, keeping my voice light. "Hello?" A second of silence. Then, not Nathan, but Melissa. Her voice was tight with frustration. "Chrissy, hey. Look, I know things are weird between us, but..." I didn't let her finish. "Melissa. How's that upgrade treating you?" Silence. Then a sharp breath through her nose. I need to know if there's something we can do to fix this. Nathan said you froze his account." I laughed. "Nathan said that, did he? And did he also mention how he stole money that wasn't his? Or how he left me on my birthday like an absolute coward?" Melissa exhaled sharply. "Look, I didn't know any of that, okay? I just thought." I cut her off again. "You just thought he was an innocent, misunderstood guy who needed saving. Let me guess, he told you I was cold, controlling, that I didn't support his dreams?" The silence on the other end told me everything. Melissa was finally realizing she'd been played, too. Little too late. While Nathan scrambled to figure out how to pay for a hotel he couldn't afford, the internet was having a field day. Because Nathan, being the overconfident, social media-obsessed idiot he was, had posted about his new life way too soon. And people noticed. Comments started rolling in. "Damn, bro flex too early. LMAO, imagine leaving your girl for an upgrade just to go broke in 24 hours. Nah, karma came with express delivery on this one." Even people who didn't know me were tearing him apart. And then it happened. The moment I'd been waiting for. His boss saw it. At 4:45 p.m., my phone vibrated again. "Nathan." I picked up, just to hear him sweat. "Chrissy, you need to stop this," he started immediately, his voice low and controlled, like he was trying to sound calm but was failing. I smiled. "Stop what, Nathan?" "You know exactly what. My boss called me today." "Oh?" I feigned surprise. "And why would he do that?" Nathan let out a bitter laugh. "Because apparently some people at work saw my Instagram post. And now HR is involved." That's right. His company had a strict non-fraternization policy. And Nathan had been dating a subordinate. Melissa wasn't just some random girl. She was a junior staff member at his firm. And now corporate had questions. Nathan thought he was calling to scare me into backing off. He still didn't understand how completely he'd already lost. So I decided to spell it out for him. "Nathan, let's get something straight. I didn't do anything to you. You did this to yourself. You stole our money. You played yourself. You lost control the moment you underestimated me." His breathing sharpened. "I swear to God, Chrissy." "No, Nathan. You don't swear to God. You swear to yourself that next time, you won't be so stupid. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have plans. Enjoy your better life, if you can still afford it." And with that, I hung up. His calls kept coming. I never answered. Nathan was losing control. Everything he'd so confidently taken for himself was slipping through his fingers like sand. No money, no hotel, no car, no apartment. And now, no job security either. But Nathan, he wasn't the type to go down quietly. No, he was the kind of guy who'd set himself on fire just to feel like he was still in control. Which meant his next move was the dumbest of all. At 9 a.m. the next morning, I woke up to a knock at my door. Not a text. Not a call. A knock. Through the peephole, I saw a uniform. "Chrissy Walker," the officer asked as I opened the door. I kept my face calm. "Yes, that's me. Is there a problem?" "We received a report about stolen property. Your ex-boyfriend, Nathan Carter, claims you've unlawfully kept items that belong to him." I almost laughed out loud. Did he now? He specifically mentioned some designer watches, a laptop, and a few suits. I stepped aside, gesturing to the hallway where Nathan's trash-bagged belongings still Saturday. Everything he left behind is right there. Untouched. He's welcome to take it if he actually comes to get it himself. The officer glanced at the bags. "So you haven't prevented him from accessing his property?" "Nope. But I have prevented him from accessing my apartment, my money, and my life." "Is that a crime?" The officer smirked. "Not at all, ma'am. Sounds like a civil matter, not a criminal one. We'll be closing this complaint." And just like that, Nathan's pathetic attempt to intimidate me through law enforcement failed. Strike one. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed again. A call from a familiar number. Melissa. I considered ignoring it, but curiosity won. "Hello?" I answered, keeping my tone light. "Chrissy, I need to know the truth." Melissa's voice came through tight. "How much of this did you plan?" I repeated, feigning confusion. "Plan? What exactly are you accusing me of, Melissa?" "Oh, don't play dumb. Nathan's broke, his job is on the line, his accounts are frozen, and now he's crashing at my place like some homeless ex-frat boy. This isn't just bad luck. You did something." I smiled, swirling my coffee. "Melissa, let me ask you something. Did Nathan ever tell you why he and I shared that bank account?" Silence. "Did he ever mention whose name is on the apartment lease? Or how he's been living off my credit cards for months?" More silence. Then, softly, almost bitterly, "No. He said you owed him that money. That you were controlling. That you'd never let him have any independence." I let out a short laugh. "So he convinced you that stealing from me was just him taking back control." Classic. Melissa exhaled sharply. God. I was such an idiot. I didn't argue. Because yeah, she kind of was. The final nail in Nathan's coffin came 3 days later. His company officially fired him. Not just because of the workplace relationship scandal, though that was bad enough, but because HR had reviewed his expense reports. Turns out, Nathan had been reimbursing himself for fake business dinners. He'd even expensed hotel stays, ones I hadn't even discovered yet. His arrogance wasn't just personal. It was professional suicide. And now Nathan was truly left with nothing. The very last time Nathan ever contacted me was 1 week later. His name popped up on my screen. Instead of rejecting it, I answered. I wanted to hear it. "Chrissy," he started, his voice hollow. "You win." I didn't say anything. I let the words hang between us. Nathan sighed. I don't get it. You didn't even try to get back at me. You didn't scream, you didn't fight. You just let everything collapse around me." I took a deep breath, then finally answered. "Nathan, you did all of this to yourself. I didn't have to fight you. I just had to watch you destroy yourself." Silence. Then, quietly, "I messed up, huh?" I smiled. Yeah. You did. And then I hung up. I blocked his number. And I never looked back. Nathan was gone. Blocked, erased, a ghost in my past. And yet, the ripples of his destruction were still spreading. Not that I cared. I'd already moved on. But Nathan. Nathan was learning the hard way that when you build your life on lies and arrogance, there's nothing left when it all crumbles. It didn't take long for word to spread about Nathan's downfall. His old friends turned on him faster than he could say upgrade. His coworkers had already seen the warning signs before he was fired. And his family, well, that's where things got really interesting. Because one afternoon, I got a text from an unexpected number. It was Nathan's mother, Linda. I hesitated before opening it, but curiosity won. Linda, Chrissy, I know you don't owe me anything. But can we talk? I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back, depends. Are you about to blame me for your son's life falling apart? Her reply came instantly. Linda, no. I need to know the truth. He won't tell me anything, and all I hear are pieces of the story from other people. That was interesting. If his own mother wasn't defending him anymore, it meant Nathan's charm had officially run out. I agreed to meet her for coffee. Not because I cared about Nathan, but because I wanted to see how much damage he'd done to himself. When I walked into the cafe, Linda looked exhausted, like she'd aged 5 years in just a few weeks. Thank you for meeting me, she said, stirring her tea absently. I need to understand how this happened. I shrugged. Your son overplayed his hand. He thought he was untouchable. He thought he was smarter than me. Linda sighed. He told us you were controlling. That you tried to ruin him. I laughed, shaking my head. Tell me, Linda. What does controlling mean to Nathan? Because as far as I can tell, it means not letting him get away with everything he wants. She didn't argue. In fact, she looked guilty. We spoiled him, she admitted. We always bailed him out when he screwed up. His dad and I thought we were helping, but I see now that we just enabled him to believe he'd never face real consequences. I took a sip of my coffee, letting her words settle. Then she asked the real question. Chrissy, is there any way back for him? I thought about it, then said the only thing I knew to be true. Not until he realizes that he is the problem. And by the look on her face, I knew she already understood the answer. I heard bits and pieces over the next few months. Nathan moved back in with his parents. Apparently, they gave him conditions this time, no free money, no reckless spending, and definitely no more girlfriends using him as a stepping stone. Which was ironic, because Melissa had dumped him a week after our last conversation. Guess being the upgrade wasn't as fun when the money ran out. While Nathan was stuck rebuilding his life from scratch, I was thriving. I got a promotion. I traveled. I started a business on the side. And for the first time in years, I felt completely free. No more waiting for someone to grow up. No more walking on eggshells. No more playing a game where the only way to win was to leave the table entirely. One day, nearly a year later, I got a message request on social media. I almost ignored it, but then I saw the name. Nathan. Curiosity got the best of me. I clicked. Nathan, hey. I know it's been a long time. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I screwed up. I should have treated you better. I don't expect anything, but I wanted you to know that. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I deleted it. Unanswered. Because some apologies, they come far too late. Nathan was nothing but a distant memory now. A lesson. A cautionary tale. A reminder of everything I would never tolerate again. While he was still trying to crawl his way out of the hole he dug for himself, my life was only getting better. And the best part? I didn't just survive his betrayal. I thrived because of it. A year had passed since that awful birthday. Since the laughable text where Nathan declared he was upgrading his life at my expense. And yet, when I looked at where we both ended up, it was clear who had really won. Because this was my reality now. My career had skyrocketed. That side business I started? It took off. Turns out, when you remove a financial leech from your life, your bank account thrives. I found love again, a real, mature, respectful relationship. Someone who didn't need to tear me down just to feel like a man. I traveled the world. While Nathan was stuck in his parents' basement, I was exploring cities, trying new foods, and finally living for myself. I didn't need revenge. My success spoke for itself. But life has a funny way of wrapping up loose ends. It happened at a mutual friend's wedding. I almost didn't go, but something told me this would be worth it. And I was right. Because the moment I walked in, I saw him. Nathan, slumped at a table in the corner, nursing a cheap beer. Looking nothing like the man who once thought he was too good for me. His once carefully styled hair was unkempt. His expensive suits were replaced by an ill-fitting dress shirt. His signature confidence was gone. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Until our eyes met, and I saw it, regret. The kind of regret that settles deep in your bones when you realize you traded gold for tin foil. I gave him a small, polite smile. Then I turned back to my date, the handsome, successful man sitting beside me, the one who actually respected me. And I let Nathan watch me move on. Later that night, he finally gathered the nerve to approach me. I saw him coming, but I pretended not to notice until he cleared his throat. Chrissy. Hey. I turned, giving him a polite, disinterested glance. Nathan. He shifted awkwardly. You look good. I smirked. I know. His lips pressed into a thin line. I guess you heard about everything. My job. Melissa. All of it. I nodded. Yep. He let out a short, bitter laugh. Guess you're pretty happy about how things turned out, huh? I tilted my head, considering my answer. Then I said, no, Nathan. I don't think about you enough to be happy or unhappy about it. And that was the truth. His face fell. I'm sorry, Chrissy. For everything. I wish I could take it back. I sighed, swirling the champagne in my glass. You don't get it, do you? He frowned. Get what? I smiled. I don't need your apology. I never did. Because the second you walked away, you set me free. And now, I gestured to the beautiful life I'd built. I have everything I ever wanted. And you, I let my gaze flicker over his worn-down appearance. Well, you have exactly what you deserve. His jaw clenched. But he had nothing left to say. Because deep down, he knew I was right. As I walked away, I felt lighter than I ever had before. Nathan had been a part of my life once. But that's all he would ever be, a past mistake. A lesson learned. And the most ironic part? He once thought that leaving me would be his greatest success. But in reality, it was mine. Because I had won the only battle that ever mattered, the battle to live well, love better, and never settle for less again.